Hello and welcome to JK Wisdom Beyond Time, a place where ancient wisdom meets modern life and where timeless truths help us navigate the beautiful complexity of being human. I'm truly grateful that you're here. Have you ever found yourself replaying the same conversation over and over again in your mind, wondering if you said the wrong thing, if you made the right decision, if you should have done something differently? Perhaps you've stayed awake at night thinking about a future that hasn't arrived yet, or carrying the weight of mistakes that no longer exist outside your memory. The body is here in the present moment, but the mind is somewhere else, revisiting the past, negotiating with the future, searching desperately for certainty in a world that has never promised certainty to anyone. This is the quiet burden of overthinking. And in many ways, it has become one of the defining struggles of modern life. We overthink our careers, our relationships, our health, our finances, our purpose. And sometimes we even overthink our own happiness. The strange thing is that overthinking often begins with good intentions. The mind believes that if it analyzes every possibility, it can protect us from pain. If it prepares for every outcome, it can prevent disappointment. If it remains constantly alert, it can keep us safe. But somewhere along the way, preparation becomes exhaustion. Awareness becomes anxiety. And thinking becomes an endless loop with no clear destination. For thousands of years, human beings have wrestled with the same challenge. Ancient philosophers reflected upon it. Wise teachers spoke about it. Modern psychology continues to study it. Different cultures used different words, but they all pointed toward a similar question. How do we find peace in a mind that refuses to be still? Tonight, we begin that journey together. Not as experts searching for perfect answers, but as human beings learning to understand one of the most powerful forces within us. Because perhaps the goal is not to eliminate every thought. Perhaps wisdom begins when we realize that not every thought deserves our complete trust. And maybe true inner peace emerges when we learn to sit beside the river of the mind, without being carried away by every current that passes through it. Modern psychology offers a fascinating explanation for why the human mind tends to overthink. At its core, the mind is not designed to make us happy. It is designed to keep us alive. For thousands of years, our ancestors survived by paying close attention to danger. Those who noticed potential threats, those who prepared for uncertainty, those who imagined what could go wrong, were often the ones who lived long enough to pass their knowledge to future generations. And so, the human brain developed what psychologists call a negativity bias. A natural tendency to give greater importance to problems than to possibilities. To danger rather than safety. To criticism rather than praise. Even today, a single negative comment can remain in our minds far longer than 100 positive ones. One difficult conversation can overshadow an entire week of joyful experiences. The mind is constantly scanning the environment, asking a simple question. What could go wrong? In moderation, this ability is incredibly valuable. It helps us prepare. It helps us learn. It helps us avoid unnecessary mistakes. But when this protective mechanism becomes excessive, something changes. Preparation transforms into rumination. Awareness becomes anxiety. And healthy thinking turns into endless mental repetition. Another powerful force behind overthinking is the human desire for control. We want certainty. We want guarantees. We want to know that our relationships will last, that our careers will succeed, and that the future will unfold according to our plans. Yet life rarely offers such promises. And because uncertainty feels uncomfortable, the mind attempts to solve it through analysis. It believes that if it thinks long enough, deeply enough, or carefully enough, it can eliminate every possible risk. But uncertainty is not a puzzle that can be completely solved. It is a fundamental part of being alive. Modern researchers have found that people who struggle with chronic anxiety often possess a lower tolerance for uncertainty. Not because they are weak, but because their minds have learned to associate uncertainty with danger. And so, overthinking becomes an attempt to create safety where certainty does not exist. The digital age has made this challenge even more difficult. We are surrounded by endless information, infinite opinions, unlimited choices. At any moment, we can compare ourselves to thousands of other people. And with every comparison comes another question. Am I doing enough? Am I making the right decision? Am I falling behind? The paradox of modern life is that more information does not always create more clarity. Sometimes it creates more confusion. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. The more possibilities we consider, the harder it becomes to move forward with confidence. And perhaps this is why so many people today feel mentally exhausted, despite living in a world filled with convenience and opportunity. The mind was never meant to carry the weight of infinite possibilities. It was meant to engage with the present moment, to solve real problems as they arise, to rest when there is nothing that truly needs to be solved. Understanding this does not eliminate overthinking overnight, but it offers something incredibly important: compassion. It reminds us that the anxious mind is not our enemy. It is simply a protective system that sometimes works harder than necessary. And perhaps true wisdom begins not by fighting the mind, but by teaching it that not every uncertainty requires a battle. Long before modern psychology gave names to anxiety, rumination, and cognitive overload, human beings were already asking a timeless question. How do we remain peaceful in a world that refuses to give us certainty? Ancient Indian wisdom approached this question with remarkable depth, not by promising complete control over life, but by helping people develop stability within themselves. One of the most profound human conversations in history takes place between a warrior and his guide. The warrior stands at a crossroads. His mind is filled with questions. Every possible outcome seems painful. Every decision feels overwhelming. He wants absolute certainty before taking the next step. And perhaps that experience is far more familiar than we often realize. How many times have we delayed an important decision because we wanted guarantees? How many opportunities have we postponed because we feared making the wrong choice? The human mind often believes that peace comes after certainty. Ancient wisdom suggested something different. It proposed that peace comes from learning how to act wisely even when certainty is impossible. The focus, therefore, was never on controlling every outcome. The focus was on controlling the quality of one's actions, to give our best effort, to act with integrity, to remain present, and to understand that the future, in many ways, belongs to forces larger than ourselves. This perspective does not encourage passivity. It encourages freedom. Because when we stop demanding complete control over life, we free ourselves from an impossible burden. We begin to recognize that uncertainty is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that we are alive. The ancient thinkers also understood that the mind possesses a natural tendency to wander. It revisits old memories. It imagines countless futures. It creates stories that may never become reality. And so, practices of reflection, silence, contemplation, and mindful action became essential parts of daily life. Not to escape the world, but to engage with it more wisely. The goal was never to eliminate thought. The goal was to prevent thought from becoming our master. To observe the movements of the mind without being completely carried away by them. To recognize that while thoughts come and go, there remains a deeper part of ourselves that can remain steady amidst change. Perhaps this is one of the most enduring lessons that ancient wisdom offers modern humanity. You do not need to solve every uncertainty before taking your next step. You do not need to predict every outcome before choosing a direction. Sometimes, the most courageous thing a person can do is to act with sincerity and allow life to unfold one moment at a time. Because wisdom is not the absence of questions. It is the ability to move forward gracefully, even when all the answers have not yet arrived. Across different cultures and different periods of human history, thoughtful people arrived at a remarkably similar realization. The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Most of our suffering does not come from this pleasant moment. It comes from our relationship with the thoughts that pass through it. A single thought appears, then another follows. And before we realize it, an entire story has been created within our minds. We begin reacting to possibilities as though they were certainties. We experience imagined futures as though they were already happening. And the body responds accordingly. The heart beats faster. The muscles tighten. The nervous system prepares for dangers that may never arrive. Yet there is an ancient insight that has survived across generations. A thought is not a command. A thought is not a prophecy. And a thought is certainly not the entirety of who we are. It is simply an event within consciousness. Something that appears, stays for a while, and eventually passes away. The challenge, however, is that modern life rarely gives us opportunities to witness this process. The moment discomfort arises, we distract ourselves. The moment uncertainty appears, we seek another opinion. The moment silence enters our lives, we fill it with noise. And so, we never fully discover that thoughts possess the same quality as clouds moving through the sky. They are constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly evolving. No storm remains forever. No season lasts indefinitely. And perhaps human emotions follow the same pattern. Anxiety arrives. Then it leaves. Joy arrives. Then it changes. Disappointment, excitement, grief, hope. All of them are visitors rather than permanent residents. The problem begins when we demand permanence from experiences that were always meant to be temporary. We hold on to certain versions of ourselves, certain expectations, certain imagined futures. And when reality moves in a different direction, the mind struggles to accept the flow of life itself. This is why moments of stillness can feel uncomfortable. Because stillness removes the distractions that usually keep us occupied. It invites us to sit quietly with our own minds, to observe without immediately reacting, to listen without trying to control every thought that emerges. At first, this can feel unsettling, but over time, something beautiful begins to happen. We discover that awareness itself is peaceful, that beneath the endless movement of thought, there exists a quieter space. A place that does not need to solve every problem or predict every outcome. And perhaps true inner peace is not about having a perfectly silent mind. Perhaps it is about developing a different relationship with the noise. A relationship built upon patience, compassion, curiosity, and the humble understanding that being human has always meant living with uncertainty. The goal then is not to stop the river from flowing. It is to learn how to sit beside it, without being swept away by every current that passes through. So what do we actually do with all of this? How do we live wisely in a world that constantly encourages the mind to do more, think more, and worry more? Perhaps the first lesson is surprisingly simple. Not every thought deserves your attention. The human mind produces thousands of thoughts every single day. Some are useful. Some are creative. Some help us solve real problems. And many are simply echoes of old fears, old habits, and old uncertainties. Wisdom is not learning how to think all the time. Wisdom is learning which thoughts deserve a seat at your table and which ones can simply pass by without a conversation. One practical habit is to create moments of mental stillness. A short walk without your phone. 10 minutes of writing your thoughts on paper. An evening without endless scrolling. A few quiet moments before sleep. These small practices may seem insignificant, but over time they teach the mind something incredibly important. That silence is not dangerous. That stillness is not emptiness. And that peace does not always require another answer. Another powerful lesson is to distinguish between preparation and obsession. Preparing for tomorrow is wise. Living in tomorrow is exhausting. Reflecting upon the past can help us grow. Living permanently in the past only deepens our suffering. Life has always asked human beings to stand in the present moment. The only place where action is truly possible. The only place where love can be expressed. The only place where change can begin. Perhaps this is why so many people discover clarity during ordinary moments. While walking, gardening, reading, watching the rain fall outside a window, the mind finally stops chasing every possibility and returns to what is real. And maybe that is the deeper invitation hidden within overthinking itself. Not an invitation to fight the mind, but an invitation to understand it. To recognize that beneath all the worrying, all the planning, and all the endless mental activity, there is often something profoundly human. The desire to be safe, the desire to avoid pain, the desire to create a meaningful life. And there is nothing wrong with that. The mind is trying to protect us. It simply forgets that some parts of life cannot be controlled, predicted, or guaranteed. They can only be lived. Perhaps the greatest challenge of being human is accepting that uncertainty is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. No one knows exactly what tomorrow will bring. No one receives complete answers before taking important steps. No relationship comes with absolute guarantees. No dream unfolds exactly as planned. And yet, generation after generation, people continue to love, to create, to hope, to move forward despite uncertainty. Maybe courage has never been about eliminating fear. Maybe courage is choosing to act with an open heart even when certainty remains beyond our reach. As we grow older, many of us begin to understand something our younger selves struggle to accept. Life is not a problem to be solved once and for all. It is a mystery to be experienced. A journey to be lived. A story that unfolds one moment at a time. The more tightly we try to control every chapter, the more exhausted we become. The more gracefully we learn to participate in the unfolding of life, the more peace we often discover. Perhaps that is why some of the wisest people you will ever meet possess a certain calmness about them. They still plan. They still work hard. They still care deeply about the people they love. But they no longer demand certainty from an uncertain world. They have learned to do what they can and to let life handle the rest. And maybe that is the freedom we have been searching for all along. Not freedom from thought, not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from the endless belief that we must mentally solve every possibility before we are allowed to live. So the next time your mind begins creating storms about a future that has not yet arrived, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself a simple question. Is this a problem I can solve right now? Or is it a possibility that my mind is trying to control? And if no action is possible in this moment, perhaps the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to let the thought pass by like a cloud moving across the sky. To trust that you have survived uncertainty before. That you have found your way through difficult seasons. That life has carried you through countless moments that once seemed impossible to overcome. And it will continue to do so. Thank you for spending these moments with me here at JK Wisdom Beyond Time. If these reflections resonate with you, I invite you to continue this journey with us, exploring ancient wisdom, modern psychology, and timeless truths that help us navigate the beautiful complexity of being human. Until next time, take care of your mind, take care of your heart, and remember, a peaceful life is not built by controlling every thought that enters the mind. It is built by learning which thoughts deserve our energy and having the courage to let the rest quietly.
For thousands of years, humanity has searched for certainty in an uncertain world, and having the courage to let the rest like clouds across the sky.
Thank you for joining this journey of self-discovery. If these reflections touched your heart, continue exploring with us at JK Wisdom Beyond Time. Until next time,